I'm Bryan Bishop with The Verge, and I'm here at the 2013 San Diego Comic-Con International. This is ground zero for anything science fiction or fantasy. One of the most anticipated projects is the film adaptation of Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game. Addie Robertson visited the Ender's Game fan experience, looking at sets from the film and talking to some of the cast.
Were you a fan of the book before you came to the movie? What was it?
It's one of my favorite books, and I love sci-fi, so it's right on my street.
Yeah, what did you like about the book? What drew you to it?
As I said, I really enjoy sci-fi, but one, it is a really exciting action-filled story, but there's a lot more to it than that. It's very complex and deep. There's a lot of the themes inside the story are present in today. They always have been, and I'm sure they always will be.
Yeah, a lot of the book is sort of about being the smartest kid in the room and not being able to express the things that you think to anybody else. How do you translate that to something that's visual?
Yeah, me and Gavin talked a lot about how we were going to transfer the book and Ender's character into the story in the film. And visually, it looks stunning. All of the visual effects and everything just looks incredible.
How sort of do you see your character, and how do you make a movie that's about children but is not a children's movie?
My character is very independent and very strong, and that's an interesting question. I think it really focuses on these intelligent minds of teenagers, and it's sort of the next generation, and it's a lot of what's in the film is very relevant to today, and a lot of the story's theme of sort of teamwork and coming together at the end of the day, and it's interesting. That's a good question.
Ender's Game was published in 1985, but it's taken this long for the film to come to the big screen. We sat down with writer-director Gavin Hood and producer Roberto Orci to talk about what they need to do to make that possible.
I think we both landed on it at the same time.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Warner Brothers had it for about 7 years, but this was before us. We were blissfully ignorant, and then at some point I got a call from my agent saying, there's this book called Ender's Game, they're looking for a writer. You want to take a meeting? I went, what? I thought it was stuck at Warner Brothers with Joel. So I took a meeting, and then at some point Bob was approached, and then they put us together.
They knew that I loved the book and had been wondering about it for years. And then we got in a room together, and he's like, I'm going to write it. I was like, you go, girl. That's going to be a challenge. Let's see what happens there. And when he wrote the script, I think that gave us all the confidence to know that that's actually was maybe finally going to happen, and that made us go get the additional partners. We went and got international partners to help us with the financing. We got Lionsgate involved, Summit. We met with Eric Feig, who actually, I think he didn't know the book particularly.
Not at that stage,
and then became a fan of it himself. So we just found that everyone we'd approach as we'd go around trying to put this movie together, there were so many people who had fond memories of the material that we were able to it took a village to put it together, and that's what we did.
The first things that we had some fun doing, though, was everybody obviously is interested in this whole battle room with zero-G and that very special environment. And so one of the first things we did was make this little 45-second teaser, because everybody was saying, like, how are you going to do? You remember we had to go to Cannes and we got to try and sell, because the studios, Warner Brothers had passed, and so the studios were all a bit nervous, and can it be done, and how on earth is this zero-G going to work? And
Digital Domain on spec, right?
Yeah.
Direction did a version of.
We did a 45-second thing, we made this little thing, and then Bob and I kind of went to Cannes like two traveling salesmen, and we kind of hopped up in front of you. Remember, said, "Hi, foreign buyers, we're here to show you 45 seconds of something we hope you'll love, and a script. Would you please invest?" And you know what? They did, which was very, very bold of them, and we should say we're very grateful to our foreign buyers, because this movie would not have happened.
Because you see that it's fascinating. You could consider the book, cerebral in a lot of ways. And the trailer's been very heavy on the action element. Is that representative of the finished film, or is there a decision to make it more of an action ride, or you said you definitely want to bring in both of those elements?
Yeah,
it's in the book. So
right.
It's just as we were saying before, no one ever had the technology to kind of quite do this right yet, and so we didn't want to shy away from the spectacle of it. In a way, the spectacle is what makes it a unique property. Audiences have seen everything, and to actually have kind of a giant movie that actually is something you can talk about afterwards, and it actually makes you think, and that it's actually you have young protagonists out there having a great time and doing things we'd all want to do, like float in that room.
Right.
But they're doing it for potentially a more adult purpose and in preparation potentially for conflict and for leadership and for growing up. And to have that in one movie is, I think, part of the appeal. And so both sides of it should be celebrated, both its cerebralness and its spectacle.
Yes, it's unusual.
It didn't talk down to kids.
No, I agree with Bob. It's unusual for a big popcorn movie, which this has to be to achieve the kind of audience impact that it needs, to also have these great characters and these dynamics. Now, obviously, when trailers come out, you know, you don't want to spend 2 minutes watching some sort of cerebral angst, right? So the marketing department is likely to say, look at our cool stuff. Don't worry, this is super cool. And it is. And at the same time, when we go to a movie, which is not a 2-minute experience, it's a 2-hour experience, we've also all been there and go, okay, you've shown me 10 minutes of super cool stuff. Is there a story in here anywhere? Because I don't need to be sitting here for 2 hours and looking at cool stuff. So trailers and movies are kind of like, they're a little at odds in some ways. Yeah. So I promise you that we have been true to the core emotional and moral dilemmas that the book is so famous for. And we have also, I hope, delivered on the spectacle that the book is also. This battle room, it's not our invention, that's in the book. And that's what makes it such a great property, is this combination of really original environments with great story and great characters who are not stereotyped, who are not just good versus evil. These are complex characters who are struggling with their own demons and trying to find a way to define themselves as leaders of both others and of themselves. And that's what I love about Ender's Game. You go on this spectacular journey and you come to a place where a character really defines who he is in a good, intelligent way.